Hey, hey, welcome in. Let the good vibes all begin. Something good is about to happen. Sure. I've been waiting on you. Got a seat with your name. Started with a coffee chat. Now we about to change the game. You got a story worth telling, and I got a room full of ears. So drop whatever you've been holding. Get ready because your time is here. Because when real people talk to real people, something shifts. When real stories meet real listeners, something lifts. Every Saturday we show up and we bring our best. Show up to Carrie Connects and leave it there. Show up, show up. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. This is your moment, come near. Where every story intersects and every heart connects. From a coffee chat to the main stage, just bring who you are. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. Connection is the start. Carrie Connects. Entrepreneurs, voices, friends, where inspiration never ends. You did not come this far just to sit in the back. Everything you are through was getting you ready for that. So step into the light. Let somebody see your face. Because the right conversation can change everything in this place. When real people talk to real people, something shifts. And real stories meet real listeners, something lifts. Every Saturday we show up and we bring our best. Show up to Carrie Connects and leave it bright. Show up, show up. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. This is your moment, come near. Where every story intersects and every heart connects. Over coffee chat to the main stage, just bring who you are. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. Connection is the start. We started over coffee just to see if it was real. Yeah, you opened up and showed me everything you feel. Now the world is watching and they say the very best chance. Carrie Connects is where somebody finally cares. Show up, something is happening here. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. Listen, you know it, come near. Every story intersects and every heart connects. From the coffee chat to the main stage, just be who you are. Carrie Connects. Real conversations, real connections. This is Carrie Connects. Show up.
All right, all right, all right. Absolutely super excited to be here today with my guest, Causha Spellman-Timmons. I'm super excited to be able to connect with you over coffee chat, have a conversation. And so this is really just an amazing opportunity to be able to share who you are, share your story with our audience. And so we're going to get started. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And can I just say that intro, I don't know how you stay in your seat after that. That is
Thank you.
phenomenal.
Oh, I appreciate that. I actually put it together myself, and it was my first time making a video, but it was a lot of fun learning that journey and learning that process. So I appreciate that you appreciate the effort that went into making that. So
Absolutely.
before we get into it, Causha, talk about everything that you have accomplished, which is really a lot. Let's let our audience know who you are in your own words, not necessarily your titles or your resume, your business, which we're definitely going to talk about. But what would you want people to remember and know about you?
Absolutely. I think about that. First of all, thank you for having me. This is incredible. I am so excited that we finally are connecting here again. As you reminded me, the first time we connected was on your birthday. So I think
Yes.
that's incredible of itself and is definitely prophetic, I will say. But um so I think about this question a lot because I am so many things. And the greatest thing that I can sum it up in these days is that I am an ancestor in training. And that is how I live my life. Everything that I do is thinking about what type of ancestor I want to be. I know the influence that my ancestors have had on me. Um, is not something that can even be put into words. So that is who I am. I am a connector. I am uh, a lot of things. A child, um, a spouse, a partner, a parent, an auntie. I'm so many things. A friend. Um, but with all that I am, it is through the lens of being an ancestor in training. So,
I absolutely love that phrase, an ancestor in training. And I really love that you said a parent, right? So I don't know if you
uh-huh.
all got that. A parent of a pet is a parent. And so I love that. So that's fantastic. And I love that you talked about in training because I really think that's what life is about, that we are
Mhm.
constantly in training. And then there's always this moment that kind of changes everything for us. So, where did you grow up and how did that shape who you became?
Mm. Whew. Well, I'm born and raised Philly. Well, I was born outside of Philly, but I'm born and raised Philly. And but and I should say, 4 hours down the road on the Eastern Shore of Virginia is my, speaking of, ancestral land, and also where so many of my family still live and or go back to, and so my grandmother is from that area, and moved to New York, and then subsequently Pennsylvania, which is how then I became from Philly. So I grew up between the two, so very city and very extraordinarily rural. And those and the burbs, especially with education. I was educated in the burbs, and so all of those things put together created an amalgamation of experiences, which is one of the reasons why I'm able to um, talk to people from all walks of life, and not in the I don't know, political way or anything, but just at the bare basic of humanity. um I am I say that I belong everywhere and nowhere. When I grew up between those two places mostly, but when I was in high school, my mom moved us to Atlanta, which was an entirely different um experience. And then I left after high school. I went to the West Coast, and then I went even further, which we'll talk about later because that's adulthood, but went even further to Hawaii. And so I've only been back on the East Coast for 5.5 years, but the way that I grew up, city, suburban, and rural, you will see that all the time. You will see me in Eagles wear and uh, and swim trunks. And, ready to go hunting or farming or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what you will see me in on any given day. So, yeah.
I love that. The diversity of all of the different activities, the hunting and the fishing, growing up, and then getting to claim where you're from. And we don't really have to be from one place. I hear a lot of people say, I
Mhm.
was born here, but I was raised there. And so that's part of that being in training where we get to really define who we are and tell the
Mhm.
world who we are. So knowing that that belief in self it really is an ongoing journey, and our goals
Yeah,
change from
absolutely.
childhood, and you mentioned adulthood as well. So who would you say the person, or what was the situation that really caused you to believe in yourself?
Hmm. That's an amazing question because I don't think there's any one person or situation. Um, Content warning for those listening may talk about some trauma. So I just want to put that out there. But the reality is that something that I have become very well acquainted with in recent years is how grief and gratitude exist simultaneously in
Hmm.
my life. I mean, it exists simultaneously in our lives, but I can very much so look back on my life and they are happening at about the same rate constantly. Um, and so I had a lot of trauma that spoke so much against me and tried to take so much out of me, but I had a lot of love also.
Hmm.
Um, and learned at a very early age the difference between relatives and family. And so I was prepared to build my family um, in adulthood. And so there are a lot of things. I mean, one of the things is, I spoke about growing up between Philly and Eastern Shore, Virginia, and I call that part of my ancestral land because it is the land of the plantation where my
Hmm.
ancestors that were enslaved were. And my grandmother lives 5 minutes from that current plantation. And I grew up with my aunt, my mother's sister, taking me to that plantation, which is now a
Wow.
historical place. Um,
Mhm.
but taking me to that plantation from the age of 5 years old. And so I have what I would now call a privilege that many people don't have and that I was able to quite literally ground and root myself in the land of my ancestors. Um, and that really contributed to me believing in myself even when I haven't, because let me be clear that that is not a constant thing. Negative
Mhm.
self-talk happens all the time, but I have a grounding and a historical reference for being poured into um through so many different parts of my life so that it balanced out the things that did not pour into me well. So
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that because a lot of people have experienced trauma, and
oh,
sometimes it
absolutely.
it shapes who we have become and who we choose to become. And sometimes people don't feel like they really have the choices. Was it a specific moment in your past? And it's okay if you don't want to talk about it, but was there a specific moment in your past that significantly impacted who you are today?
Um, s- yeah, I mean, so I'm sorry. It's not that I don't want to talk about these things. I'm
Mhm.
really having a hard time just pinpointing one because there are so many.
Come on now.
But one
Right.
thing that one thing that I will say, this is a more recent moment. So in
Mhm.
2020, December 2020, my aunt, that same aunt who had been taking me to this plantation since I was 5 years old, suddenly and tragically passed away.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was in a doctoral program. I mean, I was on track, okay? Like I was on a track. I had
Mhm.
done everything that I was supposed to do. I had been doing community work. I had been doing internships, externships, volunteering. I'd moved clear across the country. Found my persons, quote unquote.
Mhm.
I mean, my partner. We've been together for 21 years. So, like, I'd gone back to school. I'd done the undergrad. I did the grad, and I was doing all of these things, and now I'm at what many would call a peak, right? I'm in
Mhm.
a doctoral program at a prominent institution and exactly what was my plan.
Mhm.
And then that happened. And it tore everything out from under me. This was my second mother. This
Mhm.
was the person who introduced me to Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, Nelson Mandela, like the, Baldwin. I mean, Toni Morrison. All of these. She was so much of who I was that I didn't just lose her, the person. I
Mhm.
lost so much of myself. And against my doctoral advisor's wishes, I continued on in that year of graduate school, of doctoral school. I excelled. I did better my second semester than I did my first. I took 4 qualifying exams that summer. I found out in the summer in July that I got an email saying I passed all 4 of my quals.
Wow.
And then I promptly had a nervous breakdown.
Mhm.
And I mean, I was out of it for about 2 years, right? Just finding a way to still stay earthside.
Right.
It changed who I was in my DNA. It
Mhm.
changed how I function. It changed how my nervous system functions. So now things like when I'm out of alignment, I know it instantly. My
Yeah.
body responds. So it changed me in what some folks might say is a negative way, but it actually made me more connected to myself. So that
Mhm.
is the moment that I would say.
And I'm so grateful that you shared that, and my condolences, on the loss of your aunt.
Thank
And
you.
that is so telling that you feel that a part of you went away when your aunt went away, and I can definitely relate to that in my own personal story, so I appreciate you sharing that. But
Mhm.
I'm sitting here looking at a survivor, a thriver.
Oh,
Cache, you didn't just survive what you went through. You are thriving in your own way in so many different areas of life. What did you have to let go of after those 2 years, or even during those 2 years, to become who you needed to become? And we're always in the
oh.
process of becoming. I understand
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Absolutely. We're always becoming. Whoo! I had to let go one of my plans.
Mm.
I had to
Oh.
let go of what I thought I was supposed to be doing, where I thought I was supposed to be. I mean, I quite literally let go of my plans. I could not, I told the program, who was very gracious, um, with leave and everything, that I was no longer the person I was when I entered that program. So either
Mm.
the program had to change, which that wasn't going to happen for little old me, or I couldn't be a part of this program.
Mm.
And I tell you, I had to let go of yes. I was a person who said yes to everything. I mean, everything. And I was so I don't know what I was scared of for saying no, because I know a lot of people say, "Well, I thought I would lose pay," and that may be so, but I genuinely enjoy saying yes. I don't like saying no. I don't like having boundaries. Like, I don't actually like having to do these things. These are things we have to do because of the human condition, but I don't
Mhm.
like having to say no. So if I don't have to, I don't want to, but I had to let go of my yes.
Mm.
I believe that a large part of why my aunt passed so early is because she didn't know how to say no. And I believe that I learned that, like many of us, from many lineages of women,
Mhm.
in our lives. And I had to learn that no allows, and people talk about this now, for your yes to be more sacred. And
Oh.
one person that I will attribute that to is, as I said earlier, my spouse, my wife, my partner of 21 years, Chanel Spellman-Timmons. She knew that. She grew up taught that. So what
Mm.
imagine our this in in our early 20s, and I'm like, "Why are you saying no to everything?" And she like, "Why
Right.
are you saying yes to everything?" And that went on, and that's a lesson you have to learn on your own. Lesson to partners who are trying to change their part, or friends, or whoever. People have to
Mhm.
change,
Mhm.
and it wasn't until I lost my aunt and I couldn't say yes. I
Ooh.
literally couldn't say yes. Okay. Spirit, God, universe, ancestors sat me down. I could not say yes, that I had to get comfortable with no.
That's
And
powerful.
it's still I'm not super comfortable, but I'm getting more comfortable. I'm an Aries, so when I start deciding that something is gonna be it, it's yep.
Yeah, very, very headstrong. I hear about the Aries symbol. I have a sister who's an Aries, a friend who's an Aries. So definitely understand that energy for people who believe in astrology. But what I love about what you said is that you had to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. The thing that you would normally do, which was say yes, say yes, say yes, and you learn how to say no. But I also love that you talked about how you and Chanel were able to have a conversation, even though Chanel is a person who would say no, right, consistently and
Mhm.
was okay with saying no. And so
Mhm.
I have a friend, my besties beyond borders, and this is her yes year, and I know she's on here
Okay.
listening. So I'm interested to see how she takes in that information and how she perceives that. So thank you for saying that. And thank you so much for your transparency. When
Mhm.
I look back and I hear the stories that you're telling, even the situation with your aunt, it sounds like, what looked like a setback may have been setting you up for a comeback. So, what motivates you to just keep moving forward? Because so many people get stuck in that place where they're not able to move forward. They just can't see their way out. They do the ongoing negative self talk.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what really helped you to be able to move forward?
Well, first, let me just say that if you're having trouble moving forward, maybe you're not supposed to right now. That's the first
Mm,
thing. Because what I will say is for so many of us who are constantly moving forward, constantly, I was a person who didn't even celebrate my wins because it was like, boom, on to the next one. That was cool. On to the next one. Thank you. On to the next one. I didn't like compliments. I didn't anything that felt like it was going to slow me down to get into the next thing. And sometimes you do need to slow down. Sometimes you do need to sit still. Sometimes
mm,
or walk still. I love nature. So stillness for me sometimes happens in nature. So I believe that sometimes when you are not hearing, however folks receive their messaging or their gut or in their heart, whatever you listen to it. So, but what I will say is also I'm in constant self-assessment mode, and this has been something I've done my whole life. Oh, there
mm.
she is. This is this has been something that I've done my whole life, and it's exhausting. So I understand people who don't like self accountability. I understand why, but we need it. Okay,
Mhm.
but I'm in constant self-assessment mode, and so I'm always asking myself uh, what is this teaching me? What can I learn from this? What am I hearing? What, you know, I'm constantly curious about myself. And I think getting curious about yourself um is a really good space to be in. Now, when you do this self-assessment, you'll know if being still is what you need or if you are stuck. Because I believe that sometimes we mistake one for the other.
Mm.
Sometimes we are being called to be still, and sometimes
Oh.
we are actually stuck, right? And so, if you are feeling stuck, I encourage you to reach out to community, whatever that may look like for you. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I'm a proponent of being in nature, getting reconnected with land, fresh foods. I mean, just all of these, spiritual practices. And I'm not talking religious. I mean, if that's for you, yes, but also just, I have altar practices, ancestral practices, like in addition to other things. And so making sure that you are in tune with yourself and attuned to people who are attuned to you, right? Um, so I have a community of people who will check in on me. You know, Cache, hey, you were one of those people. I haven't seen you post. What's going on? You haven't been posted for a little while on LinkedIn. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I appreciate that. There was a time where I would have frowned upon that. You know what I mean? Like get out of my business. Uh, and not for negative, but just I recognize how I have contributed to people maybe thinking or assuming that I'm all right. And we do that a lot too. We contribute to that. And then just to wrap up on this question, I'll say I ask myself this regularly. This is a practice I started about 3, 4 years ago. How, get ready, because people don't like this question. How am I contributing to my own suffering? How am I contributing to my own suffering? And that's not victim blaming. That's not, that's not excusing it, what anyone else is doing. But the only person that we can control is ourselves. And I think sometimes if we ask ourselves that question, how am I contributing to my own suffering? We actually will find more answers and resources in in asking that question than why are they doing this to me, or why didn't that work out, or why, you know what I'm saying? So I
Yes,
hope
I
people are
know.
able to ask themselves that question.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's so empowering when you realize that you can take ownership of your life by looking inside and seeing how you are contributing to your own suffering. There's a great
Mhm,
book that I always recommend to people who are starting on their self development journey or stuck in their self development journey
mhm.
or just want to go further in the self development journey. And that is The Mountain is You. It is such
Mm,
a powerful book by Brianna Weiss. And she has you go back to your childhood and take ownership of the things that happened to you. It's so empowering. And then she has you to even look at your future self, which I had never done before. Baby, she is fierce. Okay, get into it. And
that's
so
right.
I absolutely love that concept. But now I didn't know I was going to get on here and get a little therapy today. So I'm so glad. Wait a
I'm sorry.
minute.
I'm a social
No,
worker
this
too.
is
So
so therapeutic. I love it. It's healing because these are the questions that sometimes we don't ask ourselves. And sometimes people look at people who are put together, appear put together on the
Mhm,
outside, but are really doing a lot of suffering on the inside. Now,
mhm,
you talked about that period, Cachet, with your aunt, the 2 year transition when you kind of collapsed and had to pull everything back together. But you
mhm,
also mentioned that you were somebody different before you went to that university and after, and that somebody or something was going to have to change. And
mhm.
since the program didn't change, that meant that you had to change, even if it meant changing the program. So,
That's right.
how did you come out of that situation different from the person that went into the program?
Well, a lot of it is I've talked about. So learning to say no, for those of you who go through graduate programs and particularly doctoral
Hmm.
programs, and people will tell you before you go in, like nobody makes it out without being on medication, and this is not that. Look, I'm a proponent for doing what you need to do, but these are the
Hmm.
things that people would say. Doctoral programs are created to suck the soul out of you. And
Mm.
for me, let me be clear, I was different, but not different. As
Okay.
in, no program is gonna suck the soul out of Cache. Okay. If anything, I'm gonna suck the soul out the program when I'm gonna take it with me when I leave. That wasn't going to happen. I am grateful that, one thing about being an older student, a non-traditional student, is I knew who I was going into that for at least up until that point. And so I believe that that's why it contributed to me knowing enough about who I was after the tragedy to know that we weren't in alignment. But what I will say is the difference is, again, I learned that my yes is sacred, and
Mm.
that and I recently heard it on, and I know she's a controversial figure, but I'm gonna bring her up, Oprah's podcast, where they talked about no contact, all that stuff, not the first one, but the second one. And they talked about your yes being sacred, your no being holy, right? And so people have much more of a respect for it when they're not hearing both all the time. And so I was saying yes so much. You contribute to even like devaluing yourself. And
Mhm.
I mean, it was like, it was nice. It would be nice to get paid, but if I don't, like my grandmother used to call me and my aunt freebies. That was our nickname. She get on the phone, hey freebie, because every time you turn around, you do something for free. And and now it's not that I don't do things for free, but I'm much more succinct and much more um, picky about what things I do for free. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But oftentimes we tell ourselves, oh, I'm a community oriented person. Oh, we fam. Oh, this is for the culture. All this stuff that we are hearing a lot about now too, right? That we sacrifice so much of ourselves. And I had sacrificed myself.
Mm.
I was continuing to sacrifice myself so that other people might be, wouldn't have to. I sacrificed myself so others wouldn't have to. And, some of that is okay. And also, yes, if we're all doing that, then we're all taken care of. Because when I'm sacrificing myself and you're, or not even sacrificing yourself, but if I got us right now and then later you gotta, you know what I'm saying? It needs to be that. But when it's not reciprocal, then you have to start asking yourself. I mean, all the things that we hear now, right? All, you can't pour from an empty cup and all of this and that. Now I'm on the tip of I am the cup, right? So like what is someone pouring into me and what can I pour into someone? And if that can't happen, no mutuality, no reciprocity, then I have to be asking a different question. I also created what I call 7 levels of access to Causha, because before everybody had all access. It was you get all access pass, you get all access pass. And and then I need something and I got like 2 or 3 people I can call. And it's
that.
yes, and it really brings you in. So that what happened was it brought things into focus. So I will say that I just became more. I would say that who I probably would have taken 20 years to become, it took 2 years.
I absolutely love that you talked about that, because you can condense time frames through that self-development and through that self-awareness. And I love that idea of reciprocity, that giving. I go to a lot of podcasts. I actively engage in the comments. I'm always sharing somebody's information. Actually, that's one of the ways that you and I came in contact with each other, because I'm like, who is this? Every time I would log in, there was something else, but it was hardly ever about your business. It was always about somebody is hiring, somebody is offering grants, somebody is doing a program, a seminar, a workshop, a webinar. And I said, that spirit of giving, that is very attractive in the sense that you're looking for people that you can do business with, where there's going to be this reciprocal energy. So I look for things on Causha's page, because Causha is like the old school yellow pages. If you need something, I'm trying to tell you, go to Causha's page, because it's probably there.
Hey,
and so I love that
that's right.
you share so much information, even if it does not have anything to do with you, your company, your business, the things that you're doing. And so I love that all of these experiences in logotherapy, they talk about how we are the total sum of our experiences, that existentialism. And so if you had not experienced what happened to you, who do you think that you would be today?
I can't even fathom. I don't. I think I would be a rich asshole if I'm that, like, if I put it plainly. I think I would be a rich asshole, because I have so many, and this is not boastful. I was a great student. I was great in math. I was a STEM student. And I was one of those very rare students that was both STEM and sociological. And it is only because of how I was brought up, and also what I believe is a cultural phenomenon of colors of community being more dedicated to the cause than to themselves, that I became the sociological person instead of the STEM person who probably would have made billions of dollars and been sitting somewhere, consuming things that I shouldn't be consuming. You know what I mean? And I'd like to think that I would have still been dropping, money in the bucket and stuff like that. But I don't know that when I looked up, if when I made it to the other side, if I would say, boy, I became the ancestor that I wanted to become. I don't know I would be able to say that. And
Mm.
so, but I also don't think that we have to be famished, not all of us, in order to become the ancestor that we want to become. So I am on a journey to finding that, where that balance is. But I do think I can't even say, I think that's what I think I would be a rich asshole. Simply put, that would, I would be, I would be, I'd be a lot of things I probably shouldn't say on here, but those are the two words that sum it up.
Okay. Well, listen, and to thine own self be true. All right. And
Okay.
so the universe, really, you talked about earlier in the beginning about universal alignment. And I really believe that we get the experiences that we need to put us in position to become the person that we are meant to become, so that we can give our gifts to the world, which I truly believe make room for you. Now, I'm curious, Cache, because you have so many amazing companies and businesses and things that you do and people's information that you share. So if you weren't the RA, right, the rich a-hole, um, you've become who you've become, but who do you feel like needed you to get through that so you could show up for them later? Like, who is the work for? Who is Cache today? Who is that?
The
Who is that
work is
for?
for the work is for first and foremost the 9-year-old Cache.
Mm,
That is the first and foremost. The 5-year-old Cache, the 11-year-old. I mean, the the person that I needed then to bring me through. That's who
ooh,
I continue to become. Um, it is also, I know, when they talk about what is it that you know that you know that you know, I know that I know that I know that I am significant in my lineage.
mm,
I know that I am a generational shifter. And so much of the work that I do is also, I know, is my ancestors working through me. So it is
mhm,
for my ancestors and it is for descendants. And not just biologically, but all of those that have contributed to who I am. And so um yeah, and then, so this is the social worker in me, right? This is my ecological map, right? So the center
break it
is for the childhood Cache, and
down.
then it's
Okay.
for ancestors and descendants, and then it's community, right? In real
Mhm,
time. So it is for all of those who, are, don't get me in here preaching, but under the sound of my voice right now. It is for all of those who come into, I tell people all the time, people are like, why are you so friendly when you go to just the store? And I'm like, well, one, you never know what somebody has been through. It
mm,
doesn't take anything to smile and say hello. And for me, I often do go a step beyond that. How you doing? Sometimes I'll make a joke if they seem like, oh, you must be ready to go home. You know what I mean? But I do those things because I believe that at our very basic sense of humanity, we should be wanting to leave every space better than when we walked in. And if that is
mm,
not what you are doing, then I can't roll with you. But that is how I live my life. So I don't care if it's a drive-through. I don't care if it's, here. I don't care if it's a conference with 20,000 people. Like, or if I'm walking into a school and it's, custodian, like, I don't want someone to leave the space of Cache, and though I'm sure there may be some, and say, that they are worse off when they have after they've had an encounter with me than before.
Mm.
That is never my goal, and that is not something I would want to live with a lot of people having experienced. So
Yeah. And I hear you and I receive that. And that's another level that I just discovered that we have this amazing connection because my mother, who is, passed away at the age of 39, but that was one of the things that she would always say is live your life in such a way that people are blessed just from having known you. And so I love that you live your life in such a way that whether it's the person at the cashier or the person that's in the conference room, that you leave a smile, that you leave a kind word, that you leave a joke. And that's so true that you just never know what people may be going through. And so this 5-year-old Cachet, this 9-year-old Cachet is the person that your work is focused on. And I love that you said you would want somebody, you're the person that you would have wanted for that person. And a lot of times, our younger selves are our ideal clients in the work that we do. So tell
mm-hmm.
us, what are you focused on right now? Tell us about your company, what you're focused on, who it's for, who are your clients today?
Well, my clients are adults. So let me just be
Mhm.
clear about that. However, well, in a sense, so I do a lot of things, but the biggest things that I do right now is I am a founder and CEO of Cast Associates, which is a coaching and consulting firm that um, operates from the social justice, SOUL, social justice framework. And it is a framework people can find out more about on my website or come to LinkedIn or, Instagram or any of those places. But essentially it started by me calling myself a social worker when I was in my MSW program because I always want to distinguish myself from trends, but I also wanted to distinguish myself from those who I was sitting in class with that I knew I would never refer a client to. And I
Mm.
would tell them, like, after they a stupid answer or answer that I thought I'll be like, I'm never referring a client to you. I just hope you know. Um, and I hold people to a certain ethics. So and sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
No,
See,
that's
I go
okay.
off on
Just
tangents
you're
sometimes.
telling us about your business and
Yes. And so that's right, social worker. And so I wanted to distinguish myself. And so I started calling myself that then. And that was 10 years ago. And so it evolved after I had, the experiences that I had. I was doing coaching and consulting statewide. I was in policy. I was a policy director for an organization. And I was also teaching. I went back to teach at the MSW program that I graduated from. And this was in my other life, remember, when I couldn't say
right.
no. So I have 4 jobs at one time. And I was working at a nonprofit where I was, supervising peer support partners for youth and young adults who were navigating systems. Okay. And so I was doing all of that. And then I stopped all of that, went to doctoral program. And then that situation happened. And one of the ways that I came back to life, I say, is actually through cooperative development. So I
Mm.
felt I found myself in the cooperative movement, and ended up doing some work, being a founding member of a housing cooperative that was based out of Massachusetts, learning about a lot of housing alternatives, and I was just doing all of these things that were kind of in similar realm, right? They're in that sociological, ecological, psychological, social work
Mm.
realm,
Mhm.
and but not really linked to what I was doing before. And so I was doing resource mobilizer. So I'd gained another new set of tools, right? And as I started to separate from that as well and figure out who I today, and I established my own work and my own business, it was like, okay, you're a tool. Like, yes, I can give people tools, but I also am a toolbox. I have a
Mm.
lot of tools, right? And if I don't have it in my toolbox, I know someone who has it in their toolbox. And so the social justice framework is really about how we can't separate ourselves from the work. if the work is going to be sustainable. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I now do work with, as a coach and consultant with both individuals and groups and orgs, nonprofit leaders. Is mostly leadership. What does it look like to be a relationship first, a relationship based individual, organization, group, those sorts of things. And then I'm back in the nonprofit world as well, in which I am currently a regional director for a youth service organization. And so that's back in some youth work, right? Where I'm not necessarily on the ground with the youth every day, but I am, managing and developing staff and volunteers and curriculum and programming and all of that stuff. And so those are the two big things that I have going on right now. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, that definitely answered my question. And I love that you talked about going from the 4 jobs. It still sounds like about 4 jobs to me, even though you broke it down to 2. I'm like, you are still such a busy, busy person giving back to the community. And social media can be its own job, just so that people who are listening
Seriously.
know that. And so I'm just curious, as you talked about, you're working with the adults that support youth, and you're also working with the adults.
Mhm.
When people come to your company to cast associates and you're offering this social work and helping families and helping the community, what does success look like for you and for the people who are around you?
Hmm. First, let me just quick correction on the pronunciation. So it's cast associates. So that's why the
I
eight
should
is in
know
there. I
that
try
because
to
I
help
have
people
great
out
and
with
not
that,
the
but I
eight.
noticed that. Right. Yeah, that's right. But for the audience, cast associates. So I think success looks like different things for different people and different
Mm,
groups. So I will
mm-hmm,
give an example. And for me, what success looks like is that one, we have a um, you know, positive experiences and relationship with one another. I
right.
consider that, because even if we decide that maybe we're not a good fit, for client base, maybe I'm passing you along to someone. But guess what? If we don't have a good relationship, I'm not passing you on. I know some
That
people
part.
do, but I'm not putting my name on it. Okay.
That
Now
part.
you might
Mhm.
find them anyway. You might go down my LinkedIn page and say, let me click on this person because they're connected to Cache, but I'm not putting my name on it. And don't have them contact me because I'm going to tell them
Right.
the truth.
Right.
That's what success for me looks like, that the relationship is consistently building and that we are in
Mm,
right relationship with one another, whatever that right relationship may look like at that time, right? Because that
mhm,
may shift
mhm,
over time. For the client, it looks like them at least being on their way to the sustainability of their goals, if not having reached at least half, if not more, of their goals with some sustainability in place. I do a lot of work, and I don't talk about this a lot, but I do a lot of work with succession planning in organizations, because it is one of those things that individuals, leadership, organizations really tussle with. But
mhm,
I
mhm.
believe in succession planning. I'm a person who will go in succession planning. I'm a visionary. So it's, where do we want to end up? And we work backwards and figure out how to get there. And as long as we are continuing on that way and that way feels sustainable, then that feels like success. But when you don't have a vision, nobody here has a vision. Like, somebody has to have a vision.
Right.
And beyond what it just says your vision is in your company, website or whatever, beyond that, what is the actual vision? Not what we tell the grantors, not what we tell but what is your vision? And I realize, so many folks get away from the vision. So alignment, that also feels like success. Is your money in alignment with your mission? Because that is not happening, right? We are seeing it all over. There's this thing, right now, we're not this thing, what's happening right now, we see it, nonprofits struggling, And one of the reasons is because nonprofits became too reliant on governmental funding. And if you ask me, and this is, I know it's controversial for some folks, but I've been saying this for 20 years, government is not in alignment with community. So if you are running a community business and you don't have any community funds, and you are only relying on government funds, eventually it's going to come to a head, because that is out of alignment, and you have got to tell yourself the truth about that,
Mm.
right? And so on the path, like I said, the path to maintaining the vision, the sustainability path, being in right relationship with yourself, with your people, with your clients, your consumers, your customers, whatever you call them, that all feels like success. So there's different, and I'll also just say this: when you work with me, we come up together with what success would look like. Like,
Mhm.
what would success look like for you in 6 months, in 9 months, in 12 months? So
I absolutely love that. This has really been an amazing conversation. And just like last week, I am over my time. So I might have to do 60 minutes now. My guest last week told me 30 minutes was not enough, do 45. So I did 45 minutes for this one. And now we're already at 50 minutes. And so, no, that's fine. I
thank you
am
for hanging with us,
loving.
everybody.
Yes, and I am absolutely loving this conversation. And so, one of the things that I want to ask you, because at the beginning, we talked about who you were before all of this. And so, I
Mhm.
really want to end with who you have become because of it. So, if everything you survived and everything that you built and everything that life built in you was preparing you for a moment to speak to somebody who is right where you used to be, what would you say to them right now?
So I'm a very real person, and
Mhm.
I would say I can't guarantee that it's gonna be all right, but you won't know if you don't show up for it.
Mm.
So show up for your own life. I've been talking a lot about this phenomenon going around social media about, like, be the main character in your own story. So many of us are being the main character. We so busy being the main character in somebody else's story, or letting people be the main character in our story. You were extra in your own life. And you're gonna
Ooh.
wake up one day and say, I don't even know who I am. And how many people have that moment? So you don't know what's possible if you don't show up for it. And I know, look, I've been there. I have my moments still. I know what it takes sometimes to still show up. And sometimes showing up is just getting up out the bed and taking a shower that day. And maybe it'll be something more the next day. But there are no guarantees, but you cannot find out if you don't show up to your own life. So that's what I would say. Show up.
I love that. Show up in your own life. Don't be an extra in your own life. And if you check the comments on LinkedIn, I'm going to double back and add them on Facebook and Instagram and X and all of the platforms and Substack. Go back and connect with Cachet. Connect with Cachet on Facebook. Connect with Cachet on LinkedIn. Connect with Cachet on YouTube. We have to connect with people. That is how you build community. And don't just connect for the sake of connecting.
Right.
Connect so that you can build authentic relationships with people. Don't be an extra in your own life. We are going to end with that statement. So, Cachet, hang around so we can talk backstage. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for showing up in the comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Show up. And so we appreciate you all being here. See you next Saturday.
Hey, hey, welcome in. Let the good vibes all begin. Something good is about to happen. Sure. Yeah. seat with your name. Started with a coffee chat. Now we about to change the game. You got a story worth telling, and I got a room full of ears. So drop whatever you've been holding. Get ready because your time is here. Because when real people talk to real people, something shifts. When real stories meet real listeners, something lifts. Every Saturday we show up and we bring our best. Show up to Carrie Connects and leave it best. Show up, show up. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. This is your moment, come near, where every story intersects and every heart connects. From a coffee chat to the main stage, just bring who you are. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. Connection is the start. Carrie Connects. Entrepreneurs, voices, friends, where inspiration never ends. You did not come this far just to sit in the back. Everything you walk through was getting you ready for that. So step into the light. Let somebody see your face, because the right conversation can change everything in this place. When real people talk to real people, something shifts. And real stories meet real listeners, something lifts. Every Saturday we show